Arnold Schwarzenegger is 78 years old and worth over $450 million. He lives in a Los Angeles mansion, dates a successful physical therapist, and maintains relationships with all 5 of his children. On the surface, this appears to be the culmination of an extraordinary American success story. But beneath this public image is a history of scandals, accusations, and personal betrayals, serious enough to have threatened everything he built. The bodybuilding champion who became a movie star and then a politician didn't reach the top solely through hard work and charisma. His path left behind broken relationships, disputed victories, and allegations that would have ended most careers before they began. This is not simply an inspirational rise from poverty to wealth. This is an examination of the secrets Schwarzenegger concealed, the people damaged in his ascent, and the scandals that eventually surfaced when he was most vulnerable. From contested bodybuilding competitions that provoked outrage in that community to a concealed double life that ended a Kennedy marriage, Schwarzenegger's actual history is considerably darker than his public persona suggests. His situation in 2026 demonstrates that even iconic figures cannot permanently outrun their past. The central question is not whether Arnold Schwarzenegger achieved extraordinary success, it's what he was prepared to sacrifice, who was harmed in the process, and what remains hidden behind the empire he constructed through physical achievement and strategic maneuvering. Schwarzenegger's childhood in post-war Austria was not merely difficult, it was traumatic in ways that formed the ruthless competitor he became. His father, Gustav Schwarzenegger, was a former Nazi police chief who imposed military discipline and violence in their small home in Thal. Gustav forced Arnold to compete against his older brother Meinhard in harsh contests, making them fight for his approval while he drank heavily and directed his rage at both sons. Arnold has described being struck with belts, living in constant fear, and feeling perpetually inadequate regardless of his accomplishments. The house lacked running water and a telephone, and maintained an atmosphere of sustained tension that drove young Arnold to seek escape. The real tragedy that receives little attention was Meinhard's death in 1971. Arnold's older brother, his childhood rival, drove while intoxicated, crashed his car, and died at 24 years old. Arnold was in California pursuing his bodybuilding career when it happened. His response shocked many. He did not return for the funeral. He stated he couldn't afford the trip, but those close to him suggested a different explanation. Arnold had already severed ties with his family, viewing them as obstacles to his ambitions. When Gustav died the following year from a stroke, Arnold again did not attend the funeral. He had made his decision America over Austria, ambition over family, and would not reverse course regardless of who was left behind. This calculated approach appeared early in his career. In 1965, Arnold went AWOL from the Austrian military to compete in the Junior Mr. Europe competition in Germany. He served a week in military prison for desertion, but he won the competition, which was his only concern. Rules, loyalty, and family obligations could not obstruct his objectives. His goal was to become the greatest bodybuilder in history, whatever the cost required. In September 1980, Arnold Schwarzenegger competed in what many consider the most controversial victory in bodybuilding history. He had retired from competitive bodybuilding in 1975 after winning his 6th Mr. Olympia title, and had spent 5 years developing his acting career and business interests. The sport had continued without him. New champions had emerged, and his competitive career appeared to be finished. Then, weeks before the 1980 Mr. Olympia in Sydney, Australia, Arnold announced he was returning to compete, and intended to win. The circumstances raised immediate questions. Arnold arrived in Australia serving dual roles as both a competitor and a commentator for CBS, creating a significant conflict of interest. He had not maintained the strict pre-competition diet and training regimen that other athletes had followed for months. Competitors like Mike Mensa, Frank Zane, and Chris Dickerson had followed demanding programs designed to reach peak condition at precisely the right time. Arnold entered the competition in good condition but noticeably below the standard of his earlier years and his current rivals. His physique appeared less defined compared to the precise conditioning of the other competitors. The judging raised further concerns. 3 of the judges had close personal relationships with Arnold. One judge later stated he felt pressured to vote for the most prominent name in the competition. The competitors reacted with anger, particularly Mike Mensa, who believed he should have won and called the contest rigged. When Arnold was announced as the winner, the crowd responded with loud booing rather than celebration. The audience's reaction reflected widespread perception that the result was predetermined rather than earned. Frank Zane, himself a 3-time Mr. Olympia winner, left the stage in protest. Mensa was so disillusioned that he retired from competitive bodybuilding entirely, convinced the sport was fundamentally corrupt. CBS, which had paid to film the event, made an unusual decision. They refused to broadcast the footage. A major network declined to air a sports event because the outcome was sufficiently questionable that they chose not to associate with it. Decades later, bodybuilding historians and enthusiasts continue to debate the 1980 competition, with many calling it the most illegitimate Mr. Olympia victory on record. Arnold's 2023 Netflix documentary addresses the controversy minimally, providing little examination of the disputed result. He secured his 7th Sandow Trophy and reinforced his legacy with that achievement, but he did so through a process that many believed prioritized celebrity over merit. In 2003, when Arnold was running for governor of California, serious allegations emerged that threatened his political campaign. Days before the recall election, the Los Angeles Times published detailed allegations from multiple women accusing Arnold of groping, harassment, and inappropriate sexual behavior over a 3-decade period. 16 women came forward with specific accounts of Arnold's conduct on movie sets, in gyms, and at public events. The allegations were explicit and showed consistency across multiple accounts. Women described Arnold grabbing their breasts without consent, reaching under their clothing, making crude sexual comments, and using his position and celebrity to place them in situations where they felt powerless. One woman reported he groped her breast in an elevator. Another described him pulling her onto his lap and humiliating her in front of others. A waitress stated he reached up her skirt at a restaurant. These accounts described assault and harassment from women who had substantial risk and limited benefit in coming forward publicly. The timing created a critical challenge for Arnold's campaign. With the election approaching, his political prospects appeared seriously threatened. His wife Maria Shriver, a member of the Kennedy family and a respected journalist, made a decision to publicly support him. She appeared at rallies and defended his character as additional women came forward with their accounts. Maria told audiences that Arnold had acknowledged making mistakes and urged people to focus on his plans for California. Her Kennedy credibility provided significant protection against the weight of the accusations. Arnold won the election and became governor while media attention to the allegations diminished. In interviews following his governorship, Arnold acknowledged that he had behaved badly sometimes and stepped over the line. By that point, the women's accounts had been overshadowed by years of political achievements and celebrity rehabilitation. When the Me Too movement gained prominence in 2017, observers revisited cases like Arnold's, questioning why powerful men faced limited consequences while their accusers were dismissed. The explanation involves the influence of fame, power, and a cultural context that was not prepared to prioritize women's accounts over those of celebrities. Arnold maintained his career, wealth, and public standing, while the women who accused him received no tangible outcome beyond having made their accounts public. In May 2011, it became known that Arnold had fathered a child with the family's housekeeper, information that ended his 25-year marriage. The extent and duration of the deception surprised even those critical of him. This was not a brief affair that was quickly disclosed. It was a sustained double life maintained for over a decade while deceiving his family. Mildred Boehner had worked for the Schwarzenegger family since the early 1990s, performing household duties and assisting with their 4 children. Around 1996, while Maria was pregnant with their youngest son Christopher, Arnold began an affair with Mildred. Mildred became pregnant and gave birth to Joseph Boehner just 5 days after Maria delivered Christopher in 1997. Arnold had 2 sons born within days of each other, one with his wife and one with an employee in their household, while maintaining the appearance of normalcy. Arnold later stated he did not initially realize Joseph was his son, but this account has been questioned. As Joseph matured, the physical resemblance became increasingly apparent. The jawline, facial structure, and athletic build were notably similar. People who saw photographs began questioning the relationship. Arnold continued employing Mildred, who remained in the household where she interacted daily with Maria and the children, and this arrangement continued for years. Mildred's husband, who believed Joseph was his son, eventually left her when the truth became evident. He had raised another man's child while that man lived in the same residence with his other family. Maria discovered the truth in early 2011, and by all accounts, the revelation had a severe impact on her. Friends described finding her collapsed on a hotel room floor, sobbing uncontrollably. She made repeated visits to therapists to process the betrayal. At one point, she went to a convent, seeking spiritual guidance, attempting to understand the actions of the man she had loved and defended for 25 years. Maria filed for divorce immediately, but the legal proceedings took 10 years to finalize. The divorce involved extensive legal battles, custody negotiations, and property disputes, and the final settlement was not completed until December 2021, a full decade after the disclosure. The financial details of the divorce were kept private, but given Arnold's estimated $450 million net worth at the time, Maria received a substantial settlement. She had spent years defending him against groping allegations and supporting him through political controversies while building a life and family with him, only to learn he had concealed this fundamental betrayal. Joseph, the child at the center of the situation, grew up knowing his existence had disrupted a family, and that his father had kept him hidden for most of his childhood. Arnold's conduct after these events became public continued to draw attention. In 2024, he was detained at Munich airport in Germany for attempting to bring in a luxury watch worth over $20,000 without proper declaration. Customs officials held him for several hours, and he eventually paid a fine. The incident appeared unusual for someone of considerable wealth who could easily afford customs fees. Some observers interpreted it as reflecting Arnold's resistance to rules he felt did not apply to him. consistent with the mindset that characterized other aspects of his life. In 2023, Arnold personally filled a pothole in his Los Angeles neighborhood, documenting the action and posting it online with criticism of city services. The gesture initially appeared to be civic activism. The city responded by releasing records showing that Arnold's team had been notified the pothole was scheduled for repair and that his intervention was unnecessary. The incident was characterized as attention-seeking rather than genuinely addressing a community need. His health has also become a significant concern. At 78, Arnold has undergone multiple heart surgeries, including a pacemaker implant and valve replacements related to a congenital heart defect he was born with. His decades of steroid use during his bodybuilding career, which he has openly acknowledged, likely contributed to these complications. He has modified his training approach, focusing on lighter weights and more cardiovascular exercise, and has stated that the heavy lifting that built his career would now be dangerous for him. In interviews, he has been candid about his steroid use, saying that everyone in professional bodybuilding used them, and that he does not regret it because it helped him achieve his objectives. This openness reflects Arnold's consistent philosophy. The ends justify the means. Despite the scandals, deceptions, and damaged relationships, Arnold has achieved a form of public rehabilitation. He and Maria have successfully co-parented their 4 children, attending graduations and family events together with apparent civility. Their daughter Catherine married Chris Pratt, and both Arnold and Maria attended the celebration, appearing cordial in photographs. Arnold has also fully integrated Joseph into the family, and supported his acting and bodybuilding pursuits. Joseph now uses the name Joseph Baena, and has begun developing his own fitness brand, following a path similar to his father's early career. Arnold has been dating Heather Milligan, a physical therapist, since 2013, and the relationship appears stable and without controversy. She is 27 years younger than him, but they reportedly share compatibility through fitness and rehabilitation work. He has become active in climate advocacy, using his platform to promote environmental policies and renewable energy. He has made political statements criticizing both parties when he disagrees with their positions, maintaining his independent stance. His brand has remained strong. His Netflix documentary was successful. His social media presence is substantial, and younger audiences who may be unfamiliar with the scandals view him as a motivational figure. Arnold Schwarzenegger's trajectory demonstrates how fame, wealth, and persistent self-promotion can provide protection from consequences that would impact an ordinary individual more severely. He participated in a disputed bodybuilding competition and maintained his legendary status. He faced credible accusations from 16 women and won a governorship. He maintained a concealed secondary family for years and continues to have relationships with all his children. Each scandal that could have ended his career became incorporated into his larger public narrative, evidence that he has been insulated from career-ending consequences. This raises a persistent question. Does achievement excuse behavior? Arnold built a substantial empire from limited beginnings, transforming himself from an economically disadvantaged Austrian youth with an abusive father into one of the most recognizable figures globally. He inspired millions to pursue fitness goals, follow ambitions, and believe that determination can overcome obstacles. His business skills, marketing abilities, and capacity to reinvent himself across bodybuilding, film, and politics are noteworthy. At the same time, he caused harm to others, betrayed those closest to him, and used his influence in ways that were manipulative and in some cases predatory. Arnold represents a particular cultural dynamic, the idea that success is the primary measure of a person's worth, that achievement justifies the methods used to attain it. His career demonstrates that sufficient fame, recognition, and wealth can enable survival of nearly any controversy. The women who accused him occupy minor positions in his biographical narrative. The competitors who questioned the contested bodybuilding result have been dismissed as resentful. Maria has moved forward with dignity, and Joseph has been incorporated into the family narrative as though the affair was a temporary difficulty. Arnold has maintained access to professional success, financial resources, family reconciliation, and public image restoration. As he approaches 80, Arnold continues to maintain an active schedule. He continues working out, posting motivational content, and building his public profile. The individual who went AWOL from the military to compete in a bodybuilding contest, who participated in a disputed 7th Mr. Olympia victory, and who survived groping allegations and a concealed child scandal, is now viewed as an elder figure in fitness and self-improvement. People reference his advice, analyze his career trajectory, and present him as an example of upward mobility. The notable aspect may be not that these events occurred, but that they have been collectively deemed insufficient to significantly diminish his public standing. Arnold's public presence includes fitness content and success advice, but his actual history involves concrete consequences for specific individuals. His achievements are substantial, as are the choices he made to attain them. What occurred in Arnold Schwarzenegger's life is documented. He became what he intended to become, accepting the cost required, without facing lasting accountability. This reflects not only his personal trajectory, but also broader cultural patterns regarding success, and the degree to which controversies are weighed against public accomplishments and entertainment value.